Hello and welcome to another video lesson. Today we're going to dive into some essential Python functions that are going to help you handle numbers in your programs more effectively. So we're going to start with some basic functions and then we're going to explore the math module for more advanced calculations. So let's get started. First, we're going to learn about some simple yet powerful functions: minimum, maximum, and absolute value, and rounding. These functions are easy to use and they come in handy for your typical everyday calculations. So first, I have some variables up here, A, B, and C, of various integer values, 1, -2, and 3. And we're going to test these numbers with our new functions. So the minimum function, which is min, is going to return the smallest value among the numbers you provide. So we're going to provide A, B, and C. So you go ahead and you arrange all of your numbers inside of the function parentheses, and it's going to return the smallest number. And we want to see this in our output, so we're going to print it. Okay, so this should give us the minimum of A, B, and C. So of these numbers, A, B, and C, which one is the smallest? And again, when we're testing things, we like to keep the numbers small and basic because it's easier for us to see that everything is working okay. We can just visually inspect the code and realize, okay, my program works, or I don't think that I got the right output for that. So that's why we keep our testing numbers small. So I'm going to run this. And the answer is -2, so that looks correct. Now, if I want to get the maximum of these three numbers, all I do is I call max, and I'm putting it in the print statement. So max, just like min, is a built-in function in Python, just like print is a built-in function in Python, and max is going to return the largest value. So this is going to be useful when you want to compare a set of numbers and find the maximum. So I'm going to run this and we get 3. So that is truly the maximum of the three numbers. Next, we are going to get rid of this and we're going to move on to absolute values, of course, not the muscle group. The absolute value function gives you the absolute value of a number. The absolute value just means it's simply the distance from 0 on the number line, so it's always positive. So for example, both -5 and 5 are exactly 5 units away from 0. So that's what absolute value is. So to do this, we're going to print abs, like the muscle group, and then a list of numbers. In this case, we're going to put our variables A, B, and C, and we want to get the absolute value. Scratch that. We're not going to get a list of numbers. We're only going to put one number. So I'm going to run it. And the absolute value of 1 is 1. Now let's pick a number that's a little bit more tricky, and that would be B. I'm going to run this. And then I get 2. The absolute value of -2 is 2. It is exactly 2 units away from 0 on the number line. Let me go ahead and do the mistake that I was doing. So I'm going to hover over here. It's expecting one positional argument. So it means, hey, I only take one argument and you've put in 3. So all I did was I hovered over the red squiggle and then it told me what was going wrong. So that's how I knew immediately that I was making a mistake. So it only takes one positional argument. Next, we're going to, and this is going to be a short video. You don't have to learn too much in this video. Next, we're going to cover the round function. The round function rounds a number to the nearest whole number. So if the decimal part is 0.5 or higher, it rounds up. Otherwise, it rounds down, which is great when you need a simple rounded number. So I'm actually going to make this 3.1, and then I'm going to make this 1.5. And now I'm going to clear my history first so that we get all of our output on the top of the line so that you can see it. So I'm going to print round, and I want to round A. So I'm going to round A. When we round A, it should round up because 1.5 has a 0.5 or higher. It's 0.5. I'm going to run that and we get 2. So 1.5 rounded is 2. And I'm going to round C, which is 3.1. So that should round down to 3. And something that we did last week was we tested type, and it tells us the type of variable that this is going to be. So let's go ahead and see what type of variable would be returned, what type of data type, I mean, would be returned with round C. And we have class integer. So this is no longer, these are no longer doubles, it rounds to an integer. So just keep that in mind when you're working on your code. This type function that's built into Python will get the data type that you are working with. You just put it within the parentheses and you're good to go. I'm just drinking some water. My mouth always gets super dry when I lecture. So that's the rounding function. And now we're going to move on to the math module. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to import math. And what this is it's like a math toolkit in Python. So it provides functions for more advanced mathematical operations. Before using these functions, you need to remember that we import the math module, and we do that by writing import math at the top of our code. And you're going to want to put this at the top. You're going to want to put it before you use it, you immediately use it, but preferably you have all of your imports at the very top of your code. That's just convention. Okay, so now we're going to compute the factorial. Let's change these back down. Okay, let's change these back down. And we're going to print, we want to calculate the factorial. And to use the math module, you type in the word math and then dot, and then the function that you want to use. And in this case, we want to use factorial. And then in parentheses, we put a number. And when we're testing, we use small numbers so that we can ascertain that the result looks good just on a human level. So print math.factorial 3. So I'm going to run this. And that gives me 6. And for those of you who might not be aware, the factorial is simply the product of all the positive integers that add up to that number. So in this case, it's 3 times 2 times 1. If we were doing the factorial of 5, it would be 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So that's what a factorial is. Okay, and now we're going to test, let's test math.gcd. I put in parentheses. And this function finds the greatest common divisor of two numbers, which is the largest number that can evenly divide into both of them. And this is useful in fractions and useful in reducing ratios. So let's find the greatest common divisor of 8 and 12. So once again, the largest number that can evenly divide both of them. So I'm going to run this. And we get 4. Let me clear my console in just a moment. So it's 4. That's the smallest, that's the largest number that can evenly divide both of them, is math.gcd. So that's one to remember. And then a little bit kind of funny, or at least I think it's funny, is the square root, and you write it SQRT. I always thought that was a little bit funny. So this just gets the square root. So the square root of 16. We keep our numbers small when we test them. This function, the square root of a number is a value that when you multiply it by itself gives the original number. So in this example, the square root of 16 is going to be 4 because 4 times 4 equals 16. So I run it I get 4. And then look at this data type. This is a float, right? This is a float. So that's the data type that we get from using the square root function. And finally, we get to math.floor and math.ceil. And so I'm going to get rid of this. And floor rounds a number down to the nearest whole number. So let's do 3.5. So I want to round down. So in this case, I want to round down to 3. Even though this is a 5 or higher and it would normally round up, we're not rounding up right now. We're saying, I want you to give me the floor. I want the lowest integer closest to this value. So I'm going to run it and I get 3, and that's correct. And you can try this out with different decimals, and it's going to be the same result. Even if we put a 9, for example, here, it's still going to be, the floor is still going to be 3. Clear that history up. And then likewise, ceil is the ceiling, and the ceiling rounds up to the nearest whole number. And you use these functions when you need to round numbers in a specific direction. So 3.9 rounded up should be 4. That's correct. What if it's 1? 3.1? It's 4. We're rounding up. So that gives us 4. So let's recap. We've covered some basic functions like min, max, abs, and round, which are great for math tasks. And then we explored some of the functions from the math module, like factorial, greatest common divisor, square root, floor, ceiling. And these are our more advanced operations. So remember to practice these functions by writing your own code and experimenting with different numbers. That's going to conclude this video lesson today. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day.